Welcome to EdTech Talk, where we dive deep into the dynamic world of educational technology and course design and feature faculty insights in higher education. I'm your host, Joy Ray, and in this episode, we are joined by three fantastic guests. We have Carmen Canty-Johnson, Pam Stovall Lee, and Lesley Todd. Today, we are going to be discussing the basic PC literacy skills of students. So I thought we would just start off by having you guys each introduce yourself, your role here at the college, and what you guys do.
Hi, my name is Pamela Stovall Lee. I am an instructor for IT support and services. I teach primarily the basic PC literacy class, introduction to computers class, advanced Excel class, and several other IT support related classes. And this is my 25th year at Forsyth Tech. I'm so glad. Thank you for asking me to join you.
Wow, that's so exciting. Congratulations. Carmen, would you like to go next?
I sure can. My name is Carmen Canty-Johnson. Here at Forsyth Tech, I act as the Learner Engagement and Strategic Outreach Initiatives Coordinator. That means that I provide support here in the Adult Learning Center, where we provide services, success coach services for adult learners and returning students.
Thank you. And what about you, Lesley?
All right. Hi, I'm Lesley Todd. I work in digital literacy services. We are part of the Academic Success Center. If you haven't been down there yet, check it out. It's pretty cool. First floor of Strickland. We offer tutoring for students as well as digital literacy support, which that includes things like basic technology help, PC literacy skills, basically any kind of educational technology you need help on. That's what we're here for.
Thank you guys so much for all that you do. So we'll just go ahead and jump right into the discussion. In preparing for this episode of the podcast, I was looking into some research done on digital literacy skills of college students, and I was rather shocked. When I think of the younger generations, I think of them being as very tech savvy and ready to tackle all things technology, right? A lot better than myself. But that wasn't really supported in the research. So what are your guys' thoughts on the research, and is that research supported by things that you see in your work here at Forsyth Tech?
All right. I think that the research is accurate, that although they are digital natives, they may not be as aware of other aspects related to their online footprint, their the impact of what they do online in their real lives, or even the skills needed to be successful in an academic setting, right? So I have seen infants and toddlers manipulate a phone to get to the app that they want to get to, right? But that doesn't mean that they're able to use that same device, which is basically a very, very small computer, to access the apps that are necessary in professional and academic realms. The same is true for high school students. They do use the phone for YouTube, but are they watching YouTube videos that's teaching them how to use Excel, right? Are they doing the real YouTube videos that's teaching a skill that's necessary for them to be academically successful? So they are probably they may not be tech savvy, but they are tech comfortable, whereas they don't have the fear that some of the older generations may have, but they still need help developing the skills to use it in an academic setting.
I like that word. They're tech comfortable. They are very tech comfortable. I like that.
Hi. I also agree with everything she said. What stuck out most to me was the fact that a lot of K-12 students are learning on Chromebooks and they're using Google Docs, but they're expected to kind of transition out of that when they go into higher ed to utilize laptops and Office suite products. There's a little bit of a disconnect with many of the students that I've seen coming from high school. I also think that the North Carolina standards that you included were very ambitious. I didn't like what they had as far as the rubrics, but I don't really see evidence of those skills actually being displayed from our high school students that are coming from high school. So I'm not quite sure where the standards fit in. I also have a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old, and I don't personally see them meeting those milestones that were set forth in the rubric. I don't see any evidence of those skills being achieved at the particular grade levels that were listed. I was also very moved by the article describing differences in socioeconomical status, like their consistent access in high school to internet. Sometimes we take that for granted. Like, not everybody is able to have internet access throughout high school consistently. And maybe their only device is the Chromebook that's provided by high school, perhaps a phone. I know most teenagers want phones, but they may not always, have that in the budget for their household. So I think it's a huge discrepancy between high schoolers that are in kind of underfunded, undersupported high school settings versus, the opposite, and who are living in households who have lower incomes. They just don't have exposure to that, or highly educated parents who make it a priority that they have exposure is also another thing that I found interesting in one of the articles you shared.
Yeah, you bring up a lot of great points that I want to touch on later in the episode as well. But the articles that are being referenced, we will make sure to include those in the show notes so that anyone that's interested can kind of read these research articles that I found, as well as the North Carolina K through 12 computer science standards. I don't know how long those have been around. I don't think they have been around very long, so it'll be interesting to see if those are going to be implemented and how they will be implemented and how well students will take to them. So that will be interesting. I also read that in middle school, I think starting this year, they're going to require that students take like a computer science course in, I think, ninth grade. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out within the next few years as those students taking those courses are able to graduate and hopefully step foot into Forsyth Tech. Lesley, what about you?
Yeah, so really agreeing with everything that's already been said, but the educational research journals were not surprising to me. There is a clear disconnect between K-12 and higher ed when it comes to educational technology. Now, the NC K-12 computer science standards, that was absolutely shocking for me. Like Pam, I have school-age kids. I have a 13-year-old and a 6-year-old. And so even thinking for like my 6-year-old, he's in first grade now. He was in kindergarten last year. That whole class, all those kindergartners, they were handed laptops to do iReady testing. They have to do it every couple months. They had no idea how to use a laptop. None of them did. The teachers would say, like, we hate that we have to do this because they don't know how to use the laptops. But it's an expectation that these students are going to be given these devices but not know how to use them, and even looking further in then with like my 13-year-old, she's in 8th grade right now. I bet if I read off all those standards to her, she would be completely lost and say, I don't know how to do any of that. And to the point of Chromebooks, oh man, I could have a whole podcast on Chromebooks because that is such a disservice to higher education, the Chromebook. I avoid them like the plague. So these journals did not surprise me. The standards absolutely did.
Yep. My 2 oldest are at home today because their school is closed and they're doing remote learning. And so they came home with their iPads. My oldest, she will be going into 4th grade next year, and she's excited because they will take the iPad away and give her a computer, she says. I think that will probably be a Chromebook. And so we'll have to see how that goes within the next little bit. So what do you guys think is one of the biggest contributing factors to the decline or to this lower level of basic PC literacy skills among people today?
I think
might.
Dr. Stovall Lee actually hit it when she spoke about the systemic issues. The fact that within Forsyth County, there are differences with the resources that are allocated in different schools. Attending school at Reagan High School compared to Parkland High School are going to be two completely different experiences as it relates to the technology that students have access to. Even the idea that I do believe that all schools have written grants or received funding for the actual devices, but the upkeep of those devices, updating the software, ensuring that the devices are well maintained and working properly. All of those different components can result in a different experience for students across the county. And that's not even taking into account students like in Stokes County that are a little farther out, right? So there is a difference from one high school to the next as it relates to what devices they have access to, how they are maintained, and how they are incorporated and integrated into their daily academic lives.
I agree 100%. In fact, I have an example. I have been to many different high schools recruiting, trying to get students interested in coming to Forsyth Tech and studying IT. One underserved high school I went to, the students didn't even know, and these were juniors and seniors, they didn't know what IT was, much less having the ability to distinguish which pathway in IT. We have 9-degree programs. So it was very difficult for me to even talk about the 9-degree programs if they didn't even know what IT is or why they would want to study IT. So I almost had to do like a little bit of teaching just to get some interest started up, to help them make better choices in the future. But I think that if I had gone to a more rigorously funded and supported high school, it would have been a bit different. So I sort of see in real life that there is a discrepancy that you were talking about.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, I might sound a little old in saying it, but I feel like smartphones really have been a huge contributing factor to the decline of PC literacy. When you look at, I have this little tiny computer in my hands. I can go to all the websites. I can watch my YouTube videos. I can read books. I can access the library and check out books and read full books on my phone. I can play games. I can send and receive emails with my instructor. What do I need a computer for? And so I think a big part of it too is just the mindset of, I already have a device that does everything and more. I can text and make calls from this. I can't even do that on the computer. Why do I need a computer when I can do everything and more on the phone? But there's, we have that mindset, but we don't understand that there are differences. You cannot do everything from the phone that you think you can. You might have mobile versions of a lot of these access tools, but it's not the same as when you're on a real computer. Circling back to those Chromebooks, you're looking at, I can use the mobile versions of Microsoft programs all day long, but they are not the same as the installable versions on the real PC computer, and so I think that also plays a role. That financial side, though, again, with smartphones, I can go to Walmart and buy a smartphone, not a great one, but I can get a smartphone for under $100. Good luck finding a PC for that price. So, they're really going hand in hand in a lot of it.
I agree with you in the sense that starting in middle school, we need to show the students that there is a connection. Like, you do need to learn on a laptop. You will need to learn Microsoft Office Suite and Office 365 tools, not just for our higher ed, but because this is what's being used in most businesses. Mm-hmm. So even if they don't have the resources they need to form that connection, that this is not all there is. that you're going to have to open your mind up to evolving to technology that isn't as convenient, but you'll have to have skills in to better your future.
I agree with the systemic issues and the fact that our students may not recognize or be able to utilize their smartphones and mobile devices in an academic setting. However, I would push back a little and say that the smartphones can operate in a way that is academically beneficial. I think that, like, when we're talking about digital literacy, we're talking about the definition kind of includes the fact that folks can find, evaluate, use, and communicate information. And you can do that on a smartphone. I think what we need to do is not only shift the understanding of our students of the benefits of perhaps using a personal computer, but help shift the instructors' mindsets to be more open to what those devices can do. So although our students may not be utilizing their smartphones in a way that makes them as successful as we wish in the classroom, we can teach them the skills. They can use the mobile app, especially given the fact that there are disparities in what they have access to, right? Many of the applications are now available in not only desktop versions, but in apps so that it can be accessed on a mobile device, right? So if they knew the difference between the installable version and the app, then they could choose which version is best suited for their needs, right? It's a matter of having the information and being able to make an informed decision. What do I need to use to complete this project? What is necessary for me to be successful with this task, right? I don't want to just say all smartphones are not as beneficial for our students, because they are highly mobile people, right? They may have to ride with a parent in the car. They may have to get to work. They may have to get something done while they're at work. And their phone is a tool and a resource that they can use. And the tablet is a tool. Chromebooks are awful, but they are a tool. Don't know if they're the best tool, but knowing the limitations of that tool is a part of that literacy. Being able to say, you know what, I can't do this on my Chromebook. Let me go to the library to complete this task, right? I think that's the part that we need to share with students, that here are your choices. You figure out which one is going to work to best suit your needs.
Mm-hmm. And I think that that's one of the biggest problems, is because they don't know the difference. You know, there are times where that mobile phone is going to be a huge help. Like you said, you know, life happens. We have things going on. Like, it's great that we can access some of these things from the mobile device. But when you go on to your big fancy career after earning your degree, are you going to be able to do your job from your phone? Probably not. And I think that's where a lot of disconnect comes from when they come into higher ed, is because, you know, how things have been handled previously before coming into this education environment, they do have to make that shift. And at what point are they learning to make that shift? You know, should they be learning it in K-12? Should they be learning it before they start classes? Should it be part of their new student orientation? You know, at what point can we get these students to be on the same page as us to understand that there are certain tools for certain tasks?
I agree 100% with you. The students, at least my students, are kind of learning that in the first 3 or 4 weeks of class, which adds to like one of their the barriers to getting a great start. Mm-hmm. So I think what you mentioned as it being part of an orientation would be great. I didn't want to make it seem like I didn't think there was a need for mobile phones. And there are lots of things that students can do with their phones. They're just limited as far as working in the LMS and some of these publishing platforms that we use. They're programmed to allow reading, but a lot of the substantive things that we do, we can't use mobile devices, especially in students that are in my degree pathway. It may be different from other degree pathways, but the software requirements that we have in our degree pathways aren't optimized for mobile devices. Like, so there's not much of a choice for students. Me personally, I mean, I do a lot of work. Like my phone complements my job. I just can't do everything. So I think you're right that students really need to know their choices and what's appropriate to use at what time or for what process.
I really love this discussion about educating the students about the capabilities of the different types of products, and how they can hopefully then make correct and informed decisions about the things that they want to use and how to use it. I know like the Blackboard app, they have worked really hard for the Ultra version to make it mobile friendly first before transferring it into a desktop. And so that is a great one that is friendly for mobile, but not everything is. They utilize the desktop versions first, and then they make it fit for mobile screens, which is a lot more difficult and then makes it a lot more cumbersome for students to be able to use. So are there any differences that you see between like adult learners versus like our high school students that are coming in? Or do we think that they're about the same?
I think they're about the same. If anything, the adult learners don't really have that shift from Chromebook to desktop or laptop that the incoming K-12 students have. Like, that's a little bit less of a barrier for them. But as far as digital literacy, I don't see that they're really that much more, like any one group stands out as being ahead. Occasionally, I'll have a much older student that may need a little more support, but it's more like an outlier.
Honestly, I agree. I think that between the two groups, they tend to be equally in the same area of needing tech assistance, whatever it is. But playing on like what Carmen said earlier, the younger generation tends to be very tech comfortable. Whatever technology they are using, they're comfortable with these things, even if it's not the right technology to use, and that's where the issue comes in. Whereas the older generation tends to have that tech fear. And so that's where a lot of their problems stem from, is because of this fear of, what if I mess something up? What if I don't do it right? I'm afraid to hit this button because I don't know what it's going to do. But it still is translating to a lot of the same similar issues between the two groups. It's just different ways that the issues are coming about.
I think that the adult learner population, given its definition, which can be aging out of foster care, being a veteran, being justice involved, being over the age of 25, or a parent, because the group is so varied, you have a lot more complex needs and compounded issues. So when you're looking at adult learners and their interaction with technology and their digital literacy, it is being compounded by there's a slight disconnect, right? Because we could have an adult learner from be Gen Z all the way to baby boomers. Okay. So these individuals are functioning, decision-making, problem-solving people in their lives. They pay rent. They decide which bills get paid first. They decide how money is allocated. All of these different decisions rest on their shoulder. And then when they come into an academic realm and they are expected to complete a task where perhaps their understanding is more limited, it's more than just teaching the skill. It's ensuring that they don't feel disempowered, or that they don't feel as if they are less than or undeserving to be in that space, right? So the idea of an adult not only admitting that they need the support, right, but seeking it and feeling safe enough to be open to receiving the support adds on different levels of a nuanced type of need that they have. So I would say it's a little different for the traditional students who may still be living with their parents and have other people making decisions for them, right? Who are still perhaps open to receiving support from others. There's a difference between that and being the decision maker in a household, right? And having to seek help and feeling like I should already know this. Instead of seeing the similarities, Lesley and Dr. Stovall Lee, they see the thematic similarities across students. But as an individual student, an adult learner is not going to be able to say, me at the age of 37 and that 17-year-old dual enrollment student are having the same experience. They don't know it. They feel isolated, right? So that compounds their experience when it comes to gaining the skills needed to be successful. So I agree with their assessment that they have the same areas of need, but as a student, it probably feels different because of their perceptions of how others may be more masterful at it, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I'm glad you brought that up. There is a underlying anxiety that I do find in my returning adult students. The very first thing they'll say, I haven't been to school in a long time. I'm not really sure what to expect. So they do have their own barriers and challenges just to starting. And you're right. I've seen that quite a lot. With their maturity, it also comes with a certain amount of reticence in beginning.
I really like that insight. I was listening to something and they were talking about how when you're in a fear mindset, you're not in a learning mindset. And so when you have that fear, it's difficult to learn, and you need to be able to switch your mind to be in that learning mindset, which kind of brings me to a question that I want to ask that wasn't kind of you guys aren't prepared for. But I know in my realm with instructional design, I was at a company that utilized their own platform. And so I was nervous to move into a new role because obviously other places I applied for didn't use that same platform. And I had to really be brave enough to learn something new, but I also had to talk myself up to people to share, like, I'm willing to learn and I'm a quick learner. And I think that's something that is important for the students based on, switching from Google Documents to Word documents or switching from Mac or Chrome. And there's always going to be many different possibilities that students can learn. So how can we help support them with the idea to be able to learn, and how could we get them to have that mindset to grow and be confident enough in where they're at to be able to encourage them to learn more?
A lot of it's coming down to, I feel like, confidence. It's how do we get them to build that level of confidence? And it's always easier said than done. Something that we do in our department, digital literacy, I put together this entire Blackboard Ultra course that goes through all kinds of modules about the different technologies that we use at Forsyth Tech. So that way we can actually get students in to Blackboard Ultra before classes start. They can kind of have that experience and feel more confident in using the online platforms and online technologies. So when they go to class, they might not feel so anxious about it. Because to that point, a lot of students, they might give up before they even start because they're just so fearful. They don't think they have the time. They don't think they have the skills. They don't know what it even looks like. Like, what do I expect? And that alone can be disabling for some people, of I am fearing the unknown and therefore I'm going to retreat to my safe space. And we don't want that to happen. We want them to learn and grow. That's the whole point of education. And so I think just being able to offer them those supports to show them, it's not as bad as you think, I promise. Like I always tell my students when they come in, if they have problems, like, I believe in you. You have got this. You may have hit a little road bump here, like you might have been scared to hit that submit button, but look at you now. Like you have got this. You're going to do excellent. Just keep on pushing forward. And I think that's just really the biggest thing is a lot of students, they might not have those supports. They might not have those people cheering them on and building that confidence and telling them they did a good job, and we're all kids at heart. We all need that. We all need that reassurance. So for me, I think that's a big piece of it is just getting that confidence built up.
I agree with you. I think a large part of my role as an instructor is day one. I know that a certain amount of that fear exists because I can kind of see it in their eyes from the beginning, is to say, I'm going to let you know who I am, and I'm going to let you know about this class, and I'm going to develop a relationship with you, and I hope that you trust me when I say that I can get you successfully through this class. Like you have, like what you were saying, a little bit of a pep talk, like this is going to be great. You can do it. I've been doing this a long time. I know a lot of tools. I know a lot of ways to support you. Please believe in me and yourself that we can together do this. And trust me, like take that leap. We're going to get started, and just sort of giving them that support that says like day one, I'm here for you. I believe in you. I've been doing this a long time. Trust me to know that I can help you through this, even if you're anxious. Try to just connect with students and let them know that there are supports like that we have at the college if they need additional. So like build them up a little. Let them know I expect that they're going to be successful, and to show them the tools that are going to help them get there.
I think that both you and Lesley hit on the same concept, that idea of connection and compassion, right? And the building of a relationship that is consistent in what it delivers, all in the attempt and all with the goal of building our students' resiliency, right? We're not saying that you're not going to make mistakes, that there won't be hard parts. We're saying that you can overcome them, that you can learn from these mistakes. When it comes to the concept of fear, the greatest power it has is making you feel like you're alone, that you're the only one or the only thing you can depend on. Once you realize you're not alone, once you see the different tools and the resources that are in place to support you, that feeling of isolation dissipates. And when you feel like you belong, when you feel valued, you are able to connect to others in ways that help support your success. So Forsyth Tech has done a great job with creating and establishing different resources on campus and relationships with off-campus partners to ensure that students are provided wraparound supports for whatever needs may come up. As that relates to their PC digital literacy, it is manifested in the fact that a student doesn't feel like they don't have anyone to turn to. Whether they've connected with Spark because they're a parent, then they can go to the Forsyth Tech Cares or the Spark community and make a connection with another student who's like, hey, have you tried digital literacy services, right? Even if they've made a connection with their advisor when they're registering, that advisor is like, we have tutors for that class. It's free, right? So those supports are what we need. That's the net that catches students who may lose their footing a little bit, right? With digital literacy, it's just like any other fear. You just got to know that you're not by yourself. You have to know that we already believe that you can do it. We're just going to convince you that you can handle this, that you've already done so much to get to this point, especially with adult learners. You've secured housing, you make sure people are eating every day, you're taking people to doctor's appointments. For high school students, you've completed 13 years of school. This year is not going to break you, right? So it is that positive asset or strength based perspective that helps us it helps us support our students in a way that's empowering and that is conducive to them becoming resilient in the face of obstacles, right?
Thank you. Positive affirmation, everyone loves positive affirmations, and it goes a long way to support you in all aspects of your life. So we're running a little short on time, but one last question. In a quick answer, how do you think we can support our students to grow their digital literacy well, if it's needed and here at Forsyth Tech?
I'll start. I actually think that digital literacy needs support at the state legislature level. Like, we need the entire state to be on board with starting from that preschooler with the tablet. Like, really taking those competencies that we had in the rubric very seriously from the beginning. And going beyond K-12, we need to reach out to parents, educate parents so that they know what their students are doing or their children are doing on their devices. It's, I perceive that there's an imbalance, that the students know how to work with the devices more so than their parents. And so we need our parents to be able to understand security issues and online reputations and posting and things like that, which I'm not saying that they don't, but we need to make sure that they do. And then we need to educate the elderly so that they are less likely to be victims of phishing schemes and hoaxes and things like that. I think we need to take a holistic approach starting at a very young age. And I think we need to continue doing the things that I see Forsyth Tech doing now, having the tech, things like this, and other digital literacy events that we've been having as well. Like, keep those up. Those are amazing. Giving students the opportunity to have additional training, often, which we already do, just kind of beef that up, maintain support for that.
Love that. I agree so much that this needs to be addressed earlier on. When children so young are already using technology and potentially learning how to use technology in the wrong ways, like, we need to address that and we need to fix that where it starts. I'm all for bringing back computer classes like it's 1999. All right. I want pause and typing town on CD-ROM in every computer for our students, like, bring it old school back. Like, but realistically, like, for us now, what can we do? I think the only thing that I would really like to see a change in that we could potentially change is making sure that our students are getting these supports and getting this education as soon as they walk in the door. Whether we're making this be part of like a mandatory orientation, or if we're requiring students to do CIS and ACA in that first foundational semester that they're here with us. That way that they can build those skills and have those to carry throughout their college experience, not the last semester when they're about to graduate. I think that could be beneficial if that's something that we could handle operating here. But teach it like it's 1999. That's my best advice.
I asked my daughter right before this podcast started, do you guys have computer labs? And she's like, what's that?
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's completely different. It is completely. They have the little rolling carts that just come to wherever they are. Yeah. But I think that like in the long term, it does need to happen at various levels. So it's like a multi-pronged approach. So you'd have the policymakers, the state level, you have the district issues. But here at the kind of forward, the student-facing area, I believe that we just need to be ready to provide individualized, flexible, and timely responses. We need to be able to support them in the way that they need when they need it, which means that we have to focus on building relationships so that they feel safe enough to tell us when they need help and to seek some kind of support. And once we do that along with policy change, then eventually they'll come together and all of the students will be supported from day one. But, we have some students who are past day one that still need our support, right? So we want to make sure that we can give them the information or the resources that they need.
Yeah, technology changes so quickly, and the things that we're talking about usually takes time with the kinds of change we want to see. And thank you so much for all of your insights. It was a real fun conversation with you guys, and I just want to say thank you for joining us on this episode of EdTech Talk. Tune in next time for more insights, discussions, and inspirations in the world of higher education. Until then, keep on leading and learning. Thank you so much.